right now. I had to click on start webinar and then let all people in. Well, we already have a good number of participants and we should get going. Should we, George?
Of course.
Okay. So I'll welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us to another exciting webinar that Crowd Content has been bringing to you. Again, we just keep trying to bring really great speakers that have a lot of great content to share, great tips, strategies, tactics, you name it. So reminder, I'm Carlos Mesa, CEO of Crowd Content Media. And I have with me George Chasiores. Hope I pronounce it well. And George, thanks for being here. Thanks for being in one of our webinars. Like I was saying, we love to have like really great speakers, people that we consider thought leaders in the industry. George, you've been in the industry now over 5 years, but you very quickly has risen to be a thought leader, especially when we're talking about content marketing for SaaS companies. You are the managing director of Minutia, which is a content marketing agency that helps SaaS companies create amazing content marketing. Did I get it right, George? Or did I miss anything? Anything that you want to add to that presentation?
I wouldn't add anything. I mean, you nailed the name and you nailed the name of the company as well. So it's going to be a nice webinar. So yeah. I can just share my screen and get started.
Yeah, and just before that, we'll do some quick introduction. So today we're going to be talking about content strategy. What are the key points that we're going to cover today? What's wrong with how most companies define their content strategy, the 3 types of research to define your content strategy, and thoughts on the future content strategy. So George has a great presentation he has prepared for us. We'll have the chat and the Q&A, so feel free to put questions on the chat, the Q&A. Just if you want to say hi, if you want to send a thumbs up or a comment, feel free. I'm going to let George run with his presentation, and then at the end we'll have some Q&A and maybe some discussion between George and I. So I hope everybody enjoys it, and we're going to be recording the webinar. Also, George is going to be sharing a couple of good assets, a couple of templates that will be attaching to the webinar and to the recording. So don't worry of taking notes. Just make sure you pay full attention, and then we'll send you the recording later so you can take a look. With no further ado, George, welcome, and please go ahead.
Let's do it. So let me share my screen with you. Carlos, I just need you to tell me that everything is fine. You can see my screen.
Yeah,
that's right.
I can see it. Yeah, it's beautiful green.
That's great. It's our green. It's Minutia's green. So first of all, I want to thank everyone for joining us. Please stay until the end. We will go through many interesting things today. If I would, I were to give a name to this title to this presentation, that would be, besides the name that you can see here, the title that you can see right, back to the basics, because there's a lot of noise right now, a lot of clatter, a lot of things, going on in the content marketing industry. But I think that we very often forget that, there are some basics there, and the basics, well, guess what? They keep work, and they work very well for some companies. So why shouldn't we focus on the basics and nail the basics first, and then worry about all the other things that happen right now? A couple of things before we begin. My name is George. I'm the managing director of Minutia. We are an organic growth acceleration agency for B2B SaaS companies. And quick disclaimer, let's say, before I dive into what I've prepared for you today. 4 things I want you to keep in mind. This presentation will focus on SaaS companies, but keep in mind, most of its learnings apply to other types of companies as well, right? Many of the companies mentioned are Minutia's clients and friends. So please expect that I will be positively biased towards them. Ahrefs, which is featured in several cases in this presentation, screenshots or whatever, is the sponsor of our podcast. So please expect that I will be positively biased towards them as well. And last but not least, content marketing and SEO are very opinionated fields. What follows represents our way of perceiving things, okay? And with that, let's get started. First of all, let's answer the why. Why do we need 3 types of research? The thing is that for a very long time, as we were discussing with Carlos before we, we let you in and like start this webinar, we've been heavily reliant on text-based content, right? And not only that, but we were heavily reliant on the blog, right? And on the blog, we had 3 main content types. Once again, remember, this is primarily for SaaS companies, and these content types are product-focused content, SEO content, or content for a search audience, and what we call at Minutia original content. Okay, and of course, these content types, each of these has different content formats under them, right? So, for example, if we're talking about product-focused content, anything from product updates to customer stories, case studies, how-to guides on how to do specific things with your product, and so on and so forth. When it comes to SEO, we have like informational, pieces of content. We have commercial, like alternatives, comparison guides, and so on and so forth. Job to be done, like business proposal templates, and what we call at Minutia linkable assets, like voice over IP statistics, right? Which is a linkable asset. And of course, original content like surveys, data studies, personal narratives, and so on and so forth. The question is why? Why, though, what I just shared with you is not enough? Because the notion for most people is that, like, is keyword research and isn't keyword research and like SEO content enough? Well, no. Why? Because the customer journey in most SaaS categories and in general online is becoming, for most industries and verticals, is becoming increasingly multi-touch. Okay, and in that context, your goal should be to be omnipresent and multimedia. It's not enough to just focus on your blog anymore. Okay. Most SaaS categories are quite saturated, okay, and the cookie cutter approach of just conducting keyword research and going after keywords one after the other is not enough anymore. And last but not least, your content strategy should go beyond just text-based content, okay? It should go way beyond that. Now, ideally, in an ideal world, we would have one, first and last touch point. So we have an example here. A visitor searches for something like frame.io alternatives on Google. They click on the first result by markup, and they sign up for a paid account with markup. Okay, that's it, right? You can attribute the value of like this new paid customer to this piece of content, and the content marketing team is happy, everyone is happy. However, the reality is a bit different, okay? Because with this hypothetical, let's say, customer journey, we have as many as 6 touch points, in several cases even more. And let's take it from the first touch point that we have here. A user searches for something like what is live streaming on Google. They end up at a blog post by Uscreen. Okay, a couple of weeks later, after having grasped what live streaming is, this same user, they are searching for something like how to put a live stream on your website. Okay, once again, they end up at a blog post by Uscreen. Touch point number 2. Okay, now after a few more weeks, the user searches for something like live streaming platforms on Google because, well, at this point, they know what the live streaming is. They know how to put it on their website, and to put it on their website, what they need is a live streaming platform. Okay. Now, even though Uscreen's search result is not first in this, SERP, search engine results page, the user is going to click on it. Okay. 4th touch point, a couple of days later, the user decides to attend one of Uscreen's webinars on live streaming from your website. So 4 touch points, 3 of them blog posts, 1 of them webinar. Okay. Now, in the 5th touch point, Uscreen's sales team reaches out to the user as they've seen their visits through Clearbit, and they have also their email now through the webinar they attended, right? And they share Uscreen's industry report and agree to follow up in a couple of days. This is the 5th touch point. Once again, there is some content in there, the industry report, and then in the 6th touch point, a sales rep, will pass on the prospect to an account executive. After a demo and a couple of follow-ups, the account executive manages to close the prospect. And this, even though hypothetical, I want you to know that it's very close to reality. And even though, we have all these touch points like in a single slide, the reality is that this may take, from a few weeks to a few months, right? To get from touch point number 1 to touch point number 6. And once again, going back to what we were, discussing in the previous slide, it is important that there is not just one touch point, and that there are, you are present in different touch points and capture, that demand in different touch points with different content types, content formats, and so on and so forth. Okay. Now, in terms of competition, of course, for the most part, competition is like content type and format specific, right? However, specifically for SaaS companies, we are noticing a general tendency toward increasing competition. And no surprise, specifically for keywords with commercial search intent, right? Now, last year we did a couple of studies. I guess we need to do to repeat them this year, so we have fresh data. But one of the studies we did was on alternative keywords. In other words, keywords that include the word alternative or alternatives, plural or the singular form in the keyword. And we examined 102 such keywords, and no surprise, we found that among the top 10 organic search results, we see a lot of review sites like Capterra, GetUp, TrustRadius, and so on and so forth. Okay, we did the same for software keywords. Okay, and once again, no surprise, we found that most of the websites ranking in the top 10 organic search results are review sites. And then we have feature pages, we have home pages, blog posts with only 13%, and so on and so forth. So it's not like you have to compete against just your direct or indirect competitors. You have to compete with review sites, affiliates, and so on and so forth. And unfortunately, because for these websites, traffic is connected to their livelihood, right? They get traffic and they send it back to you. And of course, you pay a commission for every lead you get or demo request. But they are also very aggressive when it comes to link building, right? And so we saw for the software keyword study we did that in terms of distribution for keyword difficulty, which is a metric by Ahrefs, most keywords are above 21, which we could say that is relatively high for a website to get, especially if you don't have the resources that some bigger websites have when it comes to link building and so on and so forth. Okay, so in general, things are getting more and more competitive online. And of course, regarding the last point, the third point I made previously about text-based content, we all understand that things are heading towards essentially what we expect to see is a landscape where it's not that text-based content will not be there. It will be. The blog will be there. It's just that the role it will play will be significantly, let's say, less important than it is today. Okay. Now, what are these three types? Now that we know why it is important to kind of approach things differently and don't rely just on keyword research and SEO content for your strategy. We have three of them. We have audience research, we have keyword research, and we have customer research. Let's start with audience research. Now, for audience research at Minutia, we have identified 4 pillars. The first is what we call websites. Websites your target audience is visiting often, either for work purposes. For example, it may be a tool they use, or to consume content on. It could be an online magazine or a publication, right? Then we have communities. Communities your target audience is part of, right? Think of places like Slack, Discord, Reddit, and so on and so forth. Then we have sources of influence. These are different sources of influence on different mediums and channels like podcasts, YouTube channels. It could be social media accounts, it could be newsletters, and so on and so forth. And last but not least, we also have what we call general insights about our target audience in terms of how they describe themselves, what hashtags they use online, what topics they often talk about, and so on and so forth. Now, let's take a step back and make a hypothetical scenario once again. Let's assume for a minute that we are an online proofing software that design companies, creative studios, and web development companies use to collaborate on their work with each other and with their clients, okay? The person who buys from us is the design lead of the company. Now, in that case, based on the pillars we shared just now, if we were to kind of try to map specific websites, communities, sources of influence, and general insights to our hypothetical scenario, we would say that we are targeting design leads, okay, people who lead design teams. When it comes to websites, we would like to make a list with things that include Behance, Dribble, Figma, uxplanet.org, Design Milk, It's Nice That, and so on and so forth. When it comes to communities, it could be Reddits, subreddits like graphic design or UX design, or forums and communities like UX Stack Exchange, Designer Hangout, and so on and so forth. Sources of influence, it could be publications like Smashing Magazine or IDEO or UX Mag, and Sketch Together, or podcasts like UI Breakfast, okay? And last but not least, we have general insights, which may be anything from hashtags, as we mentioned, like UX design or design thinking, all the way to like user research, because this is something that these people are interested in. And maybe we have to talk about it more and not just searching for keywords to go after. These people are interested in Figma plugins. So if we create content, if we could create content around that, that could resonate with them. User testing, brand identity, and so on and so forth. Okay. Now, an example that I want to share with you here, even though of course you can use some tools like SparkToro for this process, is from Minutia. While conducting audience research, we actually went and asked people whom we know are potential buyers, let's say. They could be clients of Minutia, and we went and asked them, like, can you please tell us, like, what communities are you hanging on online? What newsletters are you subscribed to? And we noticed some patterns, okay? And I hope not many of our competitors are watching this webinar. One of these patterns we identified was that people were, kept referring Contentment, which is an email newsletter by Tracy Wallace. And we were like, okay, wait a minute. Should we do something about that? I mean, it seems that people we are selling to are subscribed to this newsletter, and they, listen to what Tracy Wallace has to say. And so we did. Okay, we sponsored this, and of course this worked well for us. Okay, because it was based not on an assumption that this is where our audience is, but on actual feedback and like insights that people we sell to shared with us. Okay. Do we have any questions before we move forward with keyword research? I see something.
Yeah, just one quick question. Can Minutia help AI SaaS companies?
Yeah, of course.
Can you
Of course we can. Yeah. Of course we can. Yeah, we can discuss that towards the end, but of course we can. Feel free to check our website, go to our Let's Talk page, submit form request, and we can discuss further. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Hey, let's keep going.
So keyword research is the second type of research, because I know that right now we are all in the, this frenzy of like finding the next big prompt and finding the best way to approach an LLM and communicate with ChatGPT and things like that. But I mean, come on, the basics still work, and they work very well for many companies. Okay, keyword research is something that can still add value to your content strategy, but as described earlier, it cannot be just that. It cannot be just keyword research and SEO content. Okay. Now, when it comes to SaaS companies, there are different keyword types. Okay, some of them, for in the context of this presentation, some of them are for like content pieces, blog posts, or like other pages that are mostly focused on content, like headers, for example, or informational. And some of them are not, like navigational or transactional. Okay, but we have different keyword types. Okay, and now the question is, how can I identify keywords if I am an AI SaaS that like can be mapped to each of these types, and so I can cover the whole spectrum of what people may be looking for online when it comes to like my solution. Okay, and so let's take a step back once again and make a hypothetical scenario, which is quite similar to the ones we made previously. We are an online proofing software that design companies, creative studios, and web development companies use to collaborate on their work with each other and with their clients. Okay, now I want you to think of it as a framework, because I will share more resources when it comes to keyword research, because I don't want keyword research to overshadow this webinar. So think of it as a framework. Okay, so for us, keyword research includes four main steps. The first is to make a list of seed, semantic, and branded terms. We will see what that looks like in a minute. Then you make a list of competitors from an organic search and business standpoint. We will explain the distinction in a minute. Please bear with me. Then you have to go on and identify keywords. Okay, and I will share more resources and two templates you can use in a while. And then, of course, you will have a very nice, comprehensive keyword database, but you have to score them and you have to prioritize based on where the opportunity is and what is important to you. Okay, now we talked about in the first step about seed, semantic, and branded terms. Now, when it comes to seed terms, I want you to think of those as terms that are tightly connected to the product's capabilities and like what you represent as a company. Okay, so in the example that we made for keyword research, that would be like seed terms like proofing, markup, review, approve, approval, annotation, feedback, and so on and so forth. Okay, these are at the core of the product's capabilities. Then we have to go a step further and think about other terms that may not be as tightly connected, but they are somehow related, and some very good opportunities may arise by using these terms as part of our keyword research process. And in our case, that would be website, web, design, development, UX, workflow, collaboration, and so on and so forth. And then in the first step, we also talked about branded terms. And here I want you to think about tools, brands that your target audience interacts with. It could be tools that they use, like Figma for a designer, Adobe XD, Webflow, Contentful for a developer, Shopify, Squarespace, and so on and so forth. Okay, but you also want to make a list of the branded terms now from your main competitors. Okay, that would be markup.io, Atherim, Project Huddle, Go Visually, Markup Hero, Frame.io, and so on and so forth, as these are some of the most prominent solutions in that specific category. Okay, now let's say you have that. The second step we shared earlier was that you need to make two lists. The first of your organic search competitors and the second of your business competitors. Now, organic search competitors are all the websites whose audience and organic visibility overlap with your website, and your business competitors are all the direct and indirect competitors that we have. Now, to understand this better, we have a short list of organic search competitors based on our hypothetical scenario, which could be like creative blog, web designer news, design inspiration, the future, and so on and so forth. These are not, business competitors. Like, they are not online proofing tools, right? But rest assured, you will find yourself compete against them for some terms. And of course, let's not forget that they influence your target audience, because we know that our target audience visits these websites, and they may visit them, and maybe these websites have an influence over the decisions that our target audience makes. And of course, business competitors, we already know most of them through the branded terms that we made earlier: Markup, Atarim, Go Visually, ProofHub, and so on and so forth. Okay. Now, let me take a step back and jump off the presentation just for a minute and share with you, assuming that you have everything and you did the exercise exactly as I described it up to this point. The question is, what's next? What should I do next? So what I will share with you, you will get access to it by getting access to this Google slide, and you will be able to make a copy of these 2 sheets. And so this is the first one, which is our list of search intent modifiers, which is tailored for SaaS companies. Okay, there is a nice video here which you can watch that explains how you should think about these modifiers and how you can use them. Okay, so we have the video in the Start Here tab, and then we have the search intent modifiers themselves, and you can also have a template, once again starting with a video, to help you gather all this data, all these keywords that you have, and prioritize them based on our way of prioritizing keywords at Minutia. Okay, I know this may seem a bit like scientific or weird or difficult, but trust me, it's not. Just watch the 2 videos alongside the slides of this section, and then you will be able to use these 2 templates along with you will need a keyword data provider like Ahrefs, for example, and you will be able to come up with a nice list of keywords and also prioritize them based on our way of scoring keywords at Minutia. Okay, and of course I will also share with you at the end a webinar we did with ClearScope a few months ago on SaaS keyword research specifically, which goes in depth when it comes to how to conduct keyword research for SaaS companies, and also our webinar on how to build topical authority, which is very tightly connected to what we are discussing, and I think it will help a lot. Okay, back to the presentation, and let me close these tabs here. Okay, okay. So the question is, you've done all that. Okay, you have identified the keywords, you have scored them, you have done everything. The question is that enough to help us reach our goals? Short answer, no. Why? Well, 3 reasons. First, your competitors are most likely doing some or all of the things that I've just shared with you. Many of the keywords and keyword types are quite saturated. Remember the studies we shared earlier and how you fight against not just your competitors, but also review sites, affiliate sites, and so on and so forth. And at the same time, your goals should change from being present only when there is intent, okay, to being constantly present. Since once again, the SaaS lifecycle journey is becoming increasingly multi-touch. So going back to our hypothetical scenario, plus a minor tweak, I would like to help you kind of go beyond what I'm sharing with you today when it comes to how to identify keywords. And once again, this is more like a framework and kind of a mindset shift, rather than just a step-by-step process on how to approach keyword research. Now, we are an online proofing software that design companies, creative studios, and web development companies use to collaborate on their work with each other and with their clients. That's great. Now, the person who buys from us is either the business owner or someone who manages other people. And so here comes what we call at Minutia role-based keyword research, where you have to think about, you have to take yourself out of the limits of, I have to, target keywords that are tightly connected to the product's capabilities, or can have some sort of commercial value for me, and think, how can I be present in search where, when people are searching, regardless of whether, this keyword will kind of lead them to an action that's meaningful for me and for them, hopefully, right now. Okay. And so we think about 6 things here. First, how to help this person run their business. In our example, that could be, graphic design sales tax, okay, because these people are, running design companies. How to help these people grow their business. That could be how to get clients for web design. The third point, how to help this person work with other people. That could be graphic designer interview questions, because someone who is looking for interview questions, maybe they are a person who is going, to be interviewed by a graphic design company, but maybe they are, a new manager and they are looking for interview questions to start asking because they are hiring for people, right? Then we have anything that has to do with helping these people in their relationship with technology. That could be, Webflow plugins, because we are talking about designers. So that could be one of the things that maybe they are looking for. And it may not be directly connected to what your product is doing to your capabilities, but you have to be there. You have to be present in the context of what we said so far. Then number 5, you have to help these people stay up to date. Best design conferences, okay, because maybe they want to visit some of these conferences, and you have to be there to help them with that. And last but not least, we have to help these people when they are trying to learn new things, graphic design books, which may be irrelevant to what an online software does, but is relevant in the context of what we searched so far, okay? And this is what we call role-based keyword research. Now, there are some biases and pre-existing notions that we have when it comes to keyword research, which I will go through. The first is that every page needs to have a target keyword. The answer here is no, it doesn't. And, in fact, it shouldn't. Like, think about it, the website that, is trying to attach a keyword, assign a keyword behind every page, doesn't seem normal. It's not natural, okay? So go on and create content, do whatever you want to do or you feel will help your content strategy, and don't try to attach target keywords behind every page. The keyword difficulty is high. That's totally okay. I want you to know that no metric online is perfect, okay? Same applies to keyword difficulty. And what if the keyword difficulty is high? If you think that I have to go after this keyword because it's important and it will, help us kind of become the one of the best authorities online regarding these topics, then you have to just, create a page around that. Okay, the search volume is low. That's okay, right? Because first of all, the search volume, like the keyword difficulty, is by no means a perfect metric. Okay, keep in mind that from most keyword data providers, search volume is based on the last 12 months data. Okay, so it's based on averages, and averages, we all know they're not perfect. And of course, in most cases, search volumes cannot predict future demand or trends that happen right now. And at the end of the day, it's a metric you should take into account, but not the only metric you should take into account to inform your decisions. I can't find this keyword on my SEO software. That's totally fine. If you feel that this is a topic we need to talk about because people are searching for it, then you should just go on and create this page, right? For SaaS companies, we see it a lot nowadays. Let's, just launch alternative and comparison pages and call it a day. I would say that, this may have worked so far, but moving forward with the rise of topical authority and all these other things that we see as part of the changes that happen in search right now, just creating pages that have a commercial search intent, like alternatives, comparisons, and so on, will not be enough to help you, get the visibility, like signups, demos, whatever you're craving for. Okay. And last but not least, this keyword is not relevant to our product. It doesn't have to be. Okay. You don't do keyword research and then content for a search audience to talk only about, things that are relevant to your product. Okay. And these are some biases and pre-existing notions that we see and that we, feel that we need to talk about. Then we have some examples and best practices, which I will not share with you because we have limited time, but they will be in the presentation. And I would, urge you to take a look, because we share some very nice examples of each of the, keyword types and their like corresponding page types and how, a page should look like, along with some tips, practical tips for each keyword type, page type, and so on and so forth. And this brings us to the last of the three types of research, which is customer research. Okay. And for us at Minutia, like we did with audience research, we have 4 pillars when it comes to customer research. Now, the first is customer insights. Okay, these are insights from people who pay for your product, which you can retrieve through customer surveys, jobs to be done, interviews, and other activities. Then we have sales insights, which are insights from people who show interest in your product, regardless of whether they bought from you or not, which of course you can retrieve by analyzing your sales calls. And then we have product insights. These are insights that are product specific, which you can retrieve by analyzing your customer support tickets, product reviews on review sites like G2, run in product surveys, and so on and so forth. And last but not least, we have what we call exit insights. These are insights from people who used to pay for your product, and for whatever reason, obviously we want to learn what that reason is, decided to cancel and either look for another solution or stop using, solutions like yours altogether. Okay. Now the question is, what are we looking for? So we have 10 points here, and of course, don't feel limited. You have to go beyond that. The more data and insights you get, the better. But what we have here is that, what are the pain points that these people have, right? This should be your starting point. What are the jobs to be done and the specific use cases for your product? What makes people choose your solution? What makes people not choose your solution? What makes people leave your competitors? And what makes people leave your solution? What are the best and worst features of your product? Who are your direct and indirect competitors? And I will share an example about that. What people do before and after they use your product. And of course, anything else you can retrieve. Okay. Now, an example we have here is by Datapad, which is a dashboarding software. And we have here the screenshot of a piece of content they published. Full disclaimer, Jonas Wiesel, who is one of the co-founders, is a friend of mine. But I said that in the beginning, I will be positively biased towards the companies we mentioned. But they published a piece of content on free Google Sheets dashboard templates for 2023. Okay. And according to Ahrefs, this piece of content ranks for more than 3,300 keywords and brings in more than 1.9 thousand organic visits per month. It also ranks #1 for the target term Google Sheets dashboard templates. Okay. Now, traffic and keywords aside, this piece of content generates leads for the company. Okay. The question is why? And the answer is very simple. John is obviously a seasoned marketer. It's not his first time running marketing for a company. And especially in the beginning, he was running a lot of interviews with people, trying to understand, who basically are the competitors and how people are using other products, what pain points they're trying to alleviate, and so on and so forth. Okay. And one of the main reasons why this piece of content includes, generates leads is because it includes at the end, some drawbacks of Google Sheets when it comes to dashboarding, okay? And of course, these drawbacks are the outcome of interviews with people who used to use Google Sheets and switched to a solution like Datapad. Now, the interesting thing here is that all of us, when we start kind of working on building a content strategy, we would go and say that, who are our competitors? Let's just make a list of them and just, create these alternative pages and comparison pages and so on and so forth. But in reality, very often, the competitors that we have and compete against are different. And who would expect that, a dashboarding software, and you would expect that, our competitors are like Clipfolio or Databox and so on and so forth. But well, guess what? People are also using Google Sheets to do that, okay? And so you have to go out there and talk to people to actually retrieve these pieces of information, which can make a very big difference when it comes to how you approach your content strategy, but on a very micro level, how you can approach, a single piece of content and make a big difference when it comes to, what the ideal outcome from this piece of content may be. Okay. Now, some resources that I shared with you here, you can, by clicking here, you can actually make a copy of the search intent modifiers Google Sheet that I shared with you. Here, the same for the keyword research tool. And then here you can access the 2 webinars we did with ClearScope on SAS keyword research and on how to build topical authority. That would be it.
That's awesome, George. Excellent job. And look, it was really interesting framework. I gotta ask, so what are your thoughts now that the world around search is changing, and it's changing pretty dramatically? I think with, of course, ChatGPT, AI, etc., to create content or written content, but also with the search engines, Google with SGE and Bing with, of course, is integration into OpenAI. So what are your thoughts of how all this that you just walk us through is going to apply to that new world of search and the new world of content?
So first of all, 2 things. I see that no one dropped off, so I want to thank everyone for sticking with us until this point. Thank you very much. And second, I want to apologize for the sound of the barking dog. I'm traveling, so these things happen. So to answer your question, as we were discussing before we start the recording, things are changing rapidly. Okay. And there are many things we need to consider and take into account right now, specifically for content that's created for a search audience. People refer to it as SEO content. I would say that we all had a very strong incentive to create content because of the 10 blue links and so on. Let's keep in mind that the changes haven't been applied yet, in the sense of Google is beta testing at this point SG. Okay, so the public version may be completely different from like what we see right now. Okay, but at the same time, I think, like, changes aside, some things we can get some signals from all these let's say new technologies and introductions on behalf of Google. What these signals are, the first is topical authority. Google a few weeks, maybe a month ago, talked about topical authority. They call it topic authority for news sites. And of course, we can make the assumption that the same can somehow be applied to other websites, right? And so this basically is, and we did a great webinar with ClearScope around that topic over a year ago. But the basic thing to keep in mind here is that moving forward, in order to be able to be associated with like certain topics and like get visibility and rankings and traffic and so on and so forth, you have to talk a lot about these topics, right? And cover every aspect of these topics. A great example here is, NerdWallet for credit cards. Like we can all understand why NerdWallet has visibility for anything, high visibility for anything credit card related? And the answer is, they do a great job when it comes to covering every possible subtopic, that's, let's say, associated with credit cards, right? And there are many different things you need to take into account when it comes to topical authority, but the basics, the basic thing that people can keep from this webinar is that it's not going to be enough moving forward to just spin out words and some pages and have the expectation that I will get visibility and so on. You have to talk a lot about the topics and associated topics, subtopics, and so on that you want to get visibility for. This is the first one, topical authority. The second one is information gain. The problem is that nowadays we have this perception of information gain as something that if we talk about content for a search audience, we would simply research the top 10 results, and we would say, okay, what are the like H2 headings that these websites have, these search results have, and we would just add something on top of it and call it a day, right? For the most part, that could work in this, at this time at least, but moving forward, I expect information gain to have a completely different meaning. We talk about, at Minutia, we talk about information symmetry, right? Information symmetry is basically when we have, a transaction, and let's assume that like ranking results on the SERPs is a transaction. Every party has pretty much the same information available, right, in this transaction. This is what happens and what we see right now in most search engine results pages, right? Most websites have pretty much the same information, more or less, and they all try to be aligned in terms of search intent for, the target keyword. In the future, we expect to have, what we call informational symmetry, which is basically that a party or several parties in a transaction have significantly more information available. And of course, this gives them an edge and a benefit over all the other search results, right? While at the same time trying to be aligned with the search intent, whatever that search intent may be, okay? Now, informational symmetry, as I see it and as we see it, is not just adding an extra H2, okay? Is approaching the topic by, once again, by being aligned with the search intent, but approaching the topic completely different. So let me give you an example. Let's say that we have the keyword types of marketing, okay? If you search for that term, you will see list posts, with the best 41, 19, 21, and so on and so forth types of marketing. The problem is that, for the most part, this shows us search intent alignment, yes, list posts, okay, and information symmetry, because from these parties, okay, I mean, it doesn't make such a big difference that you have 19 and I have 23. Pretty much, we cover the same, information on the page. Now, imagine if I come with something completely different, and let's say I survey 125 marketers, and I create a piece of content that's based on, proprietary information that only I possess. This gives me an edge over everyone else, and I can make a list post to be aligned with search intent, but say that, these are the X types of marketing, the best, the X best types of marketing according to X marketing executives. Okay, this gives me an edge, and this is information gain, which is the second point we see and we believe will become increasingly important. And the last one, of course, if you take a look at Google's recent announcements, and also the announcement of the event itself, Google I/O on May 10th, you will see that they repeat certain words, and they repeat them over and over again. And remember, we are talking about a company that just a single article to go live on their blog will go through several layers of like legal approvals and like PR and so on and so forth. So nothing is like random there. Okay. And so one of the things that we see play out in the future is what they call and what we call perspectives, search perspectives. And my understanding is that search perspectives is also important in the context of corroboration, which is the process of constructing the AI answer by taking into account different perspectives from what's out there. Okay. And of course, this means that we will see more and more opinion in Google search and personal experiences, things that already exist in other search engines like YouTube, for example. Search for something like learn how to code, okay? And some of the top results will be the mistakes I would avoid if I had to learn how to code, over again, okay? And of course, we assume that the person who created this video is a developer themselves. This is something we see very often in YouTube, on YouTube, right? It's not something we see on Google search. But I think with the introduction of perspectives and search perspectives, as we call them, this will become increasingly important, and we will see more opinions and personal experiences and unique like expertise on certain topics and so on and so forth moving forward. So these are the three things. Topical authority, information gain, or a different definition of information gain, and last but not least, search perspectives.
Awesome. So you know what? I think perspective is something that is going to be huge. People are not paying as much attention. So probably you, similar to what I do, I follow a lot of thought leaders in SEO and content marketing, and a lot of people is talking about SGE and AI, Google ChatGPT, but not a lot of people are talking about perspectives. And I think that's something that people got to pay attention to, because I think it's going to dominate search in the future, as like Google quietly introduced it and hasn't made a lot of noise around it. But I strongly suggest everybody to take a look at what perspectives is. It's going to be a new feature in the SERP, and it's going to bring creator-led content, videos, people from communities to the surface when you're looking for when people are searching for something. So I recommend that everybody take a quick pick of what that means and what is that going to mean to you and your content strategy. I have a question here from the audience from Ivana. So when targeting high search volume or SV and high keyword difficulty keywords, I guess, creating a topic cluster helps, but how to decide when to stop the cluster? Is there a cutoff point in terms of SV and KD?
Now, when it comes to how to decide, I mean, it also depends on how broad the main topic is, right? So if you talk about something like sales, there are so many things that you can say, right? So many things you can say, so many subtopics, so many associated topics, and so on and so forth. If you talk about something less broad, then of course you will have to cover less subtopics, right? I would say coverage of topics or subtopics goes back to how broad the topic is. And unfortunately, Ivana, I would thank you for watching the webinar with ClearScope on topical authority, by the way, but I would like to give you a better answer, but I would say that it really depends and goes back to how broad the main topic is, and how far you're willing to go with your research and overall efforts, right? Yeah.
Maybe I can ask a follow-up question that might help clarify. So I think one of the constraints of many companies, and maybe some of you in the audience, is budget. So it'd be nice to cover all the topics, be everywhere, all touch points. But well, what do you do if you have a shoestring budget or a set budget that you just cannot stretch anymore? Should you focus on top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, topical authority in one topic? Like, how would you allocate your budget to get the best bang for your buck? Because again, none of us have infinite money to cover all the topics or all the keywords in one particular topic. But what's your take on that, George?
I would say this goes back to objectives and thinking about what the objectives that you're trying to meet are. This will help you. And at Minucia, we did a webinar with Superpath on content strategy, where we explained our process of mapping objectives to content strategy objectives to basically content types and content formats, right? Because if your objective, for example, is, you know what, right now I just have to hit the goals I have for, you know, the quarter, and that's all I need, right? Then you have to focus more on content that's, let's say, closer to where people are making a decision, right? Whereas if you say that, you know what, and by the way, we have the same issue with like our clients, and some of them come to us and they are like, you know what, we have a very clear objective, which is, I don't know, drive traffic for this quarter or whatever, or we don't have an objective and we want you to guide us, right? But it goes back to the objective, like your decisions should be informed by what the end goal is, right? And how like you would like things to be in an ideal state. And so there's no perfect answer here, but the way we approach strategy, there is a way to tie, once again, objectives to like what we should do and what we should focus on, right?
Yeah, and I think from my end, how we look at budget here for our clients and for ourselves is, okay, let's list the different activities and the different channels that will get us to our objectives with the least amount of risk or with the highest ROI. Meaning, if we find the bottom of the funnel content, let's say best content writing company, those are the terms that are really like very, very commercial, like really bottom of the funnel. If we think that's that it's going to convert the most and we need to close sales, that's where we're going to focus our budget. Now, we also need to create middle and bottom on top of the funnel, because we want to also invest in the long term, right? And future clients that are going to starting their journey. But it always comes down to ROI and where we think the bet is going to have the biggest payout, right? But so budget is going to be a big variable. So George, has been a fantastic webinar. I think, you know, like what we promised, another great guest, very, very useful strategies and tactics. I think the assets are going to be fantastic as well. So I look forward to actually downloading the assets. So we'll send the recording with links to the presentation, links to the assets. Yeah, so thank you everyone for attending. Thank you everyone for staying all the way through the end. George, good luck in your travels, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Bye everyone now.